Hey guys, let's look at the gear for today. I do operate sometimes on a delay because I record and then I'll publish them as I get time to write up the descriptions, that kind of thing. And so this today is March the 1st. So we'll see how long it takes me to make it public. And with the brush that we're using today, this is the boar brush. That's the Zenith B35 that the online community I'm a part of got together, and we had a custom color handle made. This is the same shape you were to get if you were to buy the B35. And that's the American code. There's another code for the European or non-US version of the Zenith bore, but it's basically the only 31 millimeter bore that they have. That's the diameter of the knot, and it's just big and huge. And even in the description, they talk about how this will destroy your soaps. A lot of guys load heavy, and this will make it load even heavier. And so the process of bringing that brush to all the members of the group was a lot harder than we thought. I wasn't involved in it, but there were a handful of guys that were part of it. And Rod at Stirling Soaps, Stirling Black is what I'm going to be using today. Rod has been a great help to our community in many different ways. And I've talked about that on my channel a lot, just to give credit where credit is due. He also has this beef tallow soap base that's of great value out there. There are a lot of soaps that cost more and don't perform any better at all. And a lot of his scents are very enjoyable. He has a whole category that are kind of duplicates of existing popular fragrances. This is one of them. Polo Black is what this is based off of. And there are others. And then there are some that are just kind of normal, like Peach or something like that. And then there are some that he's got a couple that are unique creations. He's got some that are just, there's this big wide variety that's out there in his brand. And so but this month, March 2023, we are going to, a handful of us that are very grateful for what Rod did to help us with the boar brush acquisition, because they came from Europe, and to get them internationally shipped, because it's animal hair, it was a huge ordeal and headache. You actually have to have a certain license or certification or something like that. And he renewed his so that he could help us out. And so that's just, and then he acted as a forwarder so that everybody would, the company would ship them to him, and then he is made the trouble to then contact everybody and invoice everybody and all that stuff. And so he just did a lot for us to help us out to make this happen. And so we're going to be using Stirling, a handful of us, all month long. And I'm proud to do that. I actually got this. It was one that I got at the Thanksgiving Black Friday, and I've been smelling it, but I haven't used it. And you can tell if you're an avid watcher of my channel or Stirling Soaps that it's a little bit smaller, and that's the way he does his smaller releases, his seasonal releases. Here's the normal 5.8 ounce tub of Stirling, and here's the 3 ounce. And so it's a little different. Don't quite have as much room to work with, but that's okay. And so I'll be using that Scots Pine Sheep later on in the month. So a whole month of Stirling. And so I've been waiting to use the Stirling Black until now. You can see it's a slightly different color than usual. It's not that cream type color that most soaps are. This is a kind of a grayish green, a light grayish green type color. And I wrote down the notes. Since it's based on Polo Black, you'll get an idea if you're familiar with that scent. Iced mango, silver armoise, sandalwood, and patchouli. So we're not talking about a bunch of scent notes here. And even though they're kind of few and simple, the write-up says it's actually a complex scent because they play really well together, something like that. And so we'll be using that today as the soap. We'll talk more about the scent a little bit later. Let's not leave out the introduction of the other products. I've already shown you the boar brush that we'll be using. I think we're looking at 7 or 8 uses now. The title of the video and the description of the video should have the use count if you're curious, but it's still fairly young, maybe 7 uses, somewhere around there for this brush. I'm going to be using the Personna Comfort Coated, and I'm going to put it inside this 40s style Gillette Super Speed. And the reason I chose the blade and the razor was because along with Stirling, one of the things that you get when you have Stirling is that just an amazing value. It's a terrific soap to buy if you're low on a budget. The larger container that I showed you, 5.8 ounces, I did a use test, and by using a bowl, you conserve soap. And I was able to use just maybe 0.4 of a gram per shave and have 4 or more passes of lather, of good lather. And then that would basically last me over a year. And so it's a great value. And so the blade here, the Comfort Coated Personas, are pretty inexpensive. And on eBay, the 40 style Super Speed, as well as most of the Super Speeds and the vintage Gillette razors, are amazing values. The makeup here is brass at the core, and it's got the plating on the exterior surfaces. And so these have already lasted people lifetimes, and they'll last your lifetime. And so they're a great value as well. So today's focused on value because we're starting a month of Stirling. And the guys got together apparently and decided to call it MOARCH Madness. MOARCH because when we set up the brush here, we called it MOAR BOAR, MOAR BOAR, because the word more, and then we're transforming it to look more like the word boar. And so then apparently they decided that they would take that transmutation and apply it to the month of March as well. And so they made it MOARCH like that. So MOARCH Madness, where we're using Stirling, and I happen to be using the boar brush that Stirling helped us to procure from Zenith as well. If you have a shaving organization that you're a part of, that you're a fan of, then you guys can get together and do something like that too. We got the custom stenciling made, and you can do the same thing. And usually it doesn't cost too much more than the actual price of the brush, because that's divided out, because you usually have to have a certain amount of people to make it all happen. All right, let's get busy. Let me get my face wet. I do have a few days of growth on my face, but I did do a face wash before the shave, so at least I won't have to contend with a bunch of natural oils and things like that. I have done maybe 2 hairdryer treatments on this brush since my last shave, and that's because I expected to use it yesterday, and so I soaked it, and then I ended up not having time. And so I decided instead of I stropped it on the towel, and I thought, well, why don't I just go ahead and treat it anyway with the hairdryer? So that's why I may be having actual more hairdryer treatments than uses, potentially. All right, he did leave a little bit of room here in the container for you to load, so that's convenient. Used to be a long time ago, most of the soaps came up to the top, and it was rare to have a maker put out a soap container that let you have some loading room, but somebody started doing it, and now we all kind of have that benefit. A lot of people adopted it. Okay, Stirling doesn't take too much time to load. Let's try 20 seconds. 35 is right there. This soap's never been lathered, so we're going to 55 if we're going to do 20 seconds. And this is a big brush, so you can see I don't have to make big circles. You can make big circles if you want. It'll just overflow a lot. And time passes quickly because I'm about to hit 55 right there. 35 to 55. Yeah, that's a 20-second load. I'm going to let some of the drips here drip down into my bowl. I think I've used Polo Black before. I think I've got a had some kind of maybe a sample of it. May have been something else. So we're going to start smelling it now that we put a little bit of it on my face here. Yeah, that's classy. I can see how the nature of the different pieces of the scent are really combining to make something special. So let's start working the lather up. So the notes, because I took the time to write them down, I may remember them without having to look at my card, but let's just position that so I can see it. Iced mango. It's hidden. With the power of suggestion, perhaps, I think I can perceive it in the accord, but it's really well blended. I don't usually like when something is iced. Sometimes that means that it's got menthol in it. Stirling is famous for a scent called Margaritas in the Arctic. A soap of theirs called that, and I've never tried it because it does have kind of a like built-in menthol, and I haven't yet found a soap where I like that. So I may have to try it someday anyway, just because it's a very, very popular Stirling scent. So with just the moisture that was in the brush, this is what we have, and so that's encouraging. It's gonna develop more as we start to add water. I added about 15 milliliters during the cutaway there. And yes, it will be kind of soupy at first, but don't you worry. The brush here is a young boar, but perhaps thanks to my hairdryer treatments and long soaks, it is lathering fairly normally. So I don't think I have to worry about trying to load a lot more soap than I really need. I wish the handle were actually a little bit longer. It's a very chunky, thick handle because of the large diameter knot, but it's still relatively short. Definitely a good one if you are a face latherer, because you don't have this kind of bowl action to do, and you could probably grip it something like this and work it. I don't think... Oh, you know what face latherers can do that I never do? You can put the base of it in your hand like that, and then reach and grab that front curve of the handle where it starts to curve in. You can grab that kind of round part in just about any brush, and it's a great grip. But you can see if I do that, my fingers are just going to get super messy in the bowl. So the scent. The silver armoise, and I am guessing at the pronunciation, I'm guessing it's slightly French, at least in the root origin. I looked that up because I didn't recognize the name. It is the quick Google search that I did said it's a fresh green type of scent. It is slightly sweet and herbaceous. Yeah, I can see that a little bit, but it's not rearing its head as a strong player here. Other names, other plants that were in the same family, or maybe even synonyms with what this actually with armoise, are mugwort, I believe, and wormwood. And you can see with those names why Stirling may have chosen not to associate those names with the actual scent description. Well, let's put some wormwood on my face. Mugwort. The write-up in Google about the arm wash oil that I was reading also said that it sometimes has leanings toward a mint type of freshness or zest, you know. And sometimes that, juniper sometimes has that as well. And sometimes that's a bother for me. If that's a strong part of the scent, I often won't like it because it kind of falls into that menthol category where I just don't enjoy the scent. So as usual, this beef tallow base has produced a wonderful looking lather. So sandalwood and patchouli are the other notes that were mentioned. Very popular as base notes in so many different fragrances. And so a lot of times you can't pull out the sandalwood very well because real sandalwood's super expensive. And so sometimes not very much of it is used. But that woody nature is often a very good supporting player in a lot of fragrances. Patchouli is often easy to pick out if you're looking for something earthy. If it's a strong patchouli, obviously, if you know what weed smells like, right, then that patchouli is going to be there. You know what? I can smell a little bit of the patchouli. I don't know if I was to look at this blind and not know the scent. I don't know that I would pull out patchouli, but I might because it's there. Oh, you know what? If you were to give me a list of the most popular scents, scent notes that are in shaving soaps, patchouli is definitely going to be one of them. I'll bet if I then looked at the list, saw patchouli in the list, smelled it, I'd probably say, yeah, it's got a little bit of patchouli in there. But again, it's a balanced player. Mango. The mango is adding just a touch of sweetness. But again, it's a very minimal player, but it's doing its job. This is enjoyable and classy. It's kind of understated. Definitely a good one to use if you're, even if you're about to go to bed. It's not going to be super zesty or anything like that. Do we need to add any more water other than the 15 milliliters that I've put in already? I don't think so. This might be about right. So this is not a plethora. This is not a ton of lather, but I got a feeling it's going to be plenty to do the job. The wormwood, the armoise. Do I smell that? The green, kind of herbaceous. Yeah. Well, the herbiness might put it next to the patchouli, you know, kind of bonded with the patchouli. So maybe it adds a greenness to the earthiness and dankness of the patchouli, perhaps. Yeah. See, I can see how the pieces are doing their jobs. And it's very clever. And so Polo obviously did their thinking when they put together the Polo Black. I don't remember how Polo Black smelled if I have used it, so I can't compare that part. Get my face wet now. And here we go. So thank you, Rod, and I believe Mandy is his wife's name, for the work that they put into helping us with our Zenith brushes. I did a count, and I think I have about 56 different Stirling scents. So I can almost go 2 months just sticking with Stirling. And it's just because it's an amazing value that I know that I'll probably sell some of it just because I have so much. I mean, that's like 56 years worth of soap. Well, no, that's not right. Because about a quarter of those are samples. Maybe another quarter of those are the 3 ounce pucks. But if they were all the 5.8 ounce, then yeah, that would be like 56, 58 years of shaves. And so that's why I'm probably going to have to sell some. because I'm never gonna get around to using all of them. And so you kind of have to pick the best, pick your favorites. And this is a really nicely wet lather. It's going to be very, very slick. Well hydrated. I don't remember how this did. I believe I know that I recently used this razor. I can't remember if I used it with this blade or not. And it's moving through this maybe 4-day stubble easily. Not like it's not there, but comfortably and easily. So if you are a kind of shaver who has kind of a low budget, then a setup like I'm using today, except for maybe the boar brush, but boars themselves are inexpensive, and so you could have a boar brush. But you could be getting this similar shave that I'm getting for not very much money at all, and really don't have that FOMO, that fear of missing out. Because honestly, the great thing about this hobby is that there are some low-cost options like this little razor right here. And he shaves better than some razors that cost $300, to me at least. Smoother, comfortable, shaves really close. I mean, those are all the boxes you need to check, right? It doesn't always have to be expensive. But I just like to dispel that myth that there's expensive shaving gear out there, and if I have minimal gear or inexpensive gear, then I'm missing out on something, on good shaves, because I haven't bought the expensive stuff. And it's not necessarily true. It may be true if you have purchased cheap stuff from like eBay or Amazon, in which case the soaps can be low quality, and the brushes can be low quality, and the razors can be kind of low quality. But there are plenty of products like this razor, this blade, other Zenith boars that are less expensive, that are going to provide just amazing quality shaves where you could potentially, go and buy something really expensive, shave with it for a while, and then realize I'm not missing out on anything. Sell that and go back to your less expensive stuff, because there's good stuff out there. And so just enjoy what you have and just don't worry. Cross grain now. This razor does have a little bit of chatter. So this is a performance lather because you can see how wet it is as I'm moving the razor across my face. The lather, if I were to keep going too far, it would just drip off my razor. That's how hydrated it is. If you are a straight razor shaver, that might be what you need to achieve in terms of your lather consistency. I'm a straight razor newbie. Done a few shaves with those, but I just constantly hear that most straight razor guys enjoy or appreciate and seek out lathers and soaps that do well when highly wet, like the one I'm using today. The scent is maybe a strength of 4 out of 10, and so I sometimes like that with some scents. Although this one's so nice, I would probably appreciate it being just a little stronger. There's some that are very potent, and so you want them to be kind of understated in the scent strength department. Well, 20 seconds is almost exactly what I need. So that's the second pass. This is the third one. Now, the soap here hadn't been lathered before, and so I'll bet if with the kind of remnant of water that that I have left behind on the top of the soap, it's going to pick up more soap tomorrow. So if I were to use the same soap tomorrow, it would give me more lather than just the maybe 3.5 passes that I have right now. And this will be a nice, easy, comfy pass. Great thing about this razor is even if you have barely any stubble at all, it's very safe for your skin. And of course the lather is protecting you too. Fast and slick is what you get with a good lather. And it's drippy. I would say that this lather might be on the wet side of perfect. My razor's moving easily and quickly. I'm getting protected from the blade. And in a second, I'll review the closeness and just make sure we're still getting a nice efficient shave. Yeah, super comfy, no irritation or tenderness at all here. I looked on Google and I wasn't able to find the Stirling Black. I should have gone right to Stirling's website, but I was looking for the scent description. Now, fortunately, I have my email content when he revealed the different scents that were going to be a part of the Black Friday, and so I was able to look back in my email history and find it. But that's a problem these days, is that if a soap vendor runs out of their soap and takes it off the website, sometimes we are then missing the scent notes if we haven't jotted them down at first. And that was the case here. Now you can use the Wayback Machine on the internet to go back, but sometimes that's some effort. And sometimes this stuff isn't, because websites are so dynamic, sometimes it might not be available even there. So the brush was comfortable. Since this lather was a little bit on the wet side of perfect, it definitely revealed the fact that the brush is young. I felt the backbone. It was a little harder to splay because there wasn't as much of the lubrication in and amongst the bristles as there is when the soap is less wet. But still very comfortable. The cool water splash revealed that. I didn't feel it until I did a cool water splash there. Looks like I made a couple of little errors in technique as I was working more than I usually do. But that's the kind of thing that will be gone in just a couple of minutes. And sure enough, this is how much lather I had at the end. I might be able to fudge another layer. I could definitely use this to shave a fourth pass, and it would be very slick because you only need a tiny layer on your skin to get the job done well. So the razor did really nicely. I didn't even think about what I was going to use after. Oh, I've got some Floyd Black somewhere. Let me go see if I can find that. Well, while I'm sure the Floyd Black would be a good match, let's stick with the value focus of today's shave. And one of the best values out there is probably something you can get at the big box store for just a handful of dollars. And that's this guy right here, Aqua Velva Sensitive 5-in-1. Another good value from a big box store is the Nivea Sensitive Aftershave Balm. And the Sensitive has no alcohol in it. So that's a good option. They have another one that has alcohol, and that one's good too. Just depends on your own personal needs. This I have heard from a friend who has very dry skin, and this is wonderful. The Stirling Balms are pretty good. This is better. But for me, I don't need this. I just bought it because he recommended it, and I want to be able to pass it along to you guys who may have sensitive skin. And sure enough, it does work very well. Your skin feels nourished and all that stuff. It has a generic kind of scent. We'll see if it interferes at all with the remnants of the Stirling Black. And I think I may have bought the cologne when Stirling released this. My pocketbook may have prevented me, but I may have gotten it. I could check and see if it's still on the website. I might do that. I'll look and see if I ordered it. If I didn't, I might really think about buying that EDT because it's a great value with the cost. It lasts a long time. And based on what I smelled from the scent today, I really like it. And especially, it's really especially neat when you discover that a scent has so few notes, and it was just, or with skill, the accord, the whole harmony there was all put together. And that's just, that makes the scent even more enjoyable. All right, I'm going to take the brush, just freshly rinsed and kind of slung out. I rinse it until the water runs clear. I got to get that soap out of there. And now I'm going to towel strap it. And after that, I'm going to do the hairdryer treatment. Here's what it looks like after the towel stropping. And if you want to see what it looks like, at least in terms of the width of display and stuff, dry, then look at the thumbnail for this shave, because it was taken before I soaked the brush, and that's uncommon. Usually I soak the brush before the shave, and so then the thumbnail pic is something I take right before I shave, immediately before, and so then the brush is always wet. But in this case, I had the thought, you know what, people might appreciate, because you don't see it right now dry, and so you'll see it a little bit more in a second when I hair dry it, but the thumbnail has the utterly dry version. And there we are. After the hairdryer treatment, the tip, and it's a gentle hairdryer treatment, low speed and only warm as the heat setting, because we don't want to damage the tips in a bad way. We just want to encourage the splitting and speed it up. And so we're not looking at crispy tips at all here. Just a gentle treatment. And I like the way that things are looking. All right. So yeah, I'm a fan of the Stirling Black. I'm glad I picked that up. I'm glad that the armoires, the almost minty nature of the armoires, it was very, very minimal, and it really only contributed to the whole profile. The iced mango also didn't really contribute too much of an icy mango scent, so that's good. It was more of a kind of a general mango to me, and it was a nice smoother. The sweetness of it just works so well with the woodiness, the herbiness of the patchouli, and then the kind of the greenness of the armoires. So yeah, and then of course the sandalwood's kind of holding it all together with its sometimes the sandalwood that Stirling has is a more of a sweet sandalwood, and so sometimes that is I wouldn't be surprised if that Stirling was using that same kind of sandalwood. I think somebody said, maybe even Stirling said, it was more of a Hawaiian sandalwood, but instead of like an Indian sandalwood, India as in the nation of India. And so it's a different type of sandalwood. And so if he was using that, I could see here how that sweetness might come into play as well and work with everything. And I think I like the silver armoires with the fact that most of the other notes here kind of easygoing and smooth. And so it adds just a little pep, a little tweak, a little, it's not really peppy, but it livens it up just enough. Very classy. To me, the scent could be suitable for any occasion. Casual, out with your buddies, wearing flannel, chopping down trees, or going to a nice restaurant, that kind of thing would be my personal opinion. That's it for today's shave. Thank you so much for watching. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves. Good night.